So much like we did for the TabNavigator on iOS, we'll now go ahead and convert the DrawerNavigation and ExNavigation to the DrawerNavigator and ReactNavigation. And to do that, we'll work from our routes.js file. And here we'll import the DrawerNavigator and then scroll down just a bit. And this is actually going to have the same configuration as our tabs, meaning it's going to have the same screens. So I'll say export const drawer, and that's going to be a DrawerNavigator. Okay, and we'll have our home screen. We'll have our camera screen, and finally we'll have our analytics screen. Inside of there, first we'll pass a screen. This is going to be stack 3. This screen is going to be stack 2, and this screen is going to be stack 1. We'll also go ahead and set up the labels for the drawer like we did before for the tab. For this time, we'll go ahead and say navigation options, and in here to specify we're setting this configuration for the drawer, we'll set this stuff for drawer itself, and in here we'll pass a label. This label is going to be home. Let's copy this stuff, paste it. Okay, this label is going to be camera, and then finally this label is going to be analytics. Okay, so our DrawerNavigator should now be all set up appropriately. Now if we go to our entry point into our application, we can delete this import drawer from our drawer layout, and we'll change that to this drawer. Everything looks good here. Save it. We'll see if this actually reloads. Everything's looking good, no errors. And then if I try to open it from the menu, one thing with React Navigation is it can be a little finicky when you're actually sliding it out from the side, especially on a simulator. But you can see we've got our DrawerNavigator successfully rendering here, and we can go ahead and switch between these screens. Since that was the last piece of ExNavigation that we were using, we can actually go ahead and delete this navigation provider that is wrapping our application. Delete that. That means we can also delete this router we're creating. And finally, we can actually delete this navigation provider and create router import from ExNavigation. By saving that, you can see that, of course, everything is running directly off of the code we're writing from React Navigation. And one of my favorite things is to actually delete code without losing functionality. So we'll go ahead and delete this layouts directory because we no longer need those layouts. And we're also going to delete this drawer row component we set up to actually render the rows. Now, as it stands, it's a pain to actually try and swipe out from the left side to open up the drawer, and it's maybe not that intuitive. So we want to add that icon, little hamburger menu next to the screen 1 or screen 3, whatever the screen is. We want to put that icon to the left of it if it's the root of that drawer. And to do that, we'll go into our routes directory. I'm going to scroll up to the top because we need a new API, and that's going to be the platform API, and that's coming from React Native. And we want to create a new component here, and we're just going to call this drawer icon. You can probably do this in a better way that matches the way your application is structured, but just for brevity, this will work for us. And inside of this drawer icon, we're going to go ahead and take this, and we'll use this first one as an example. We can specify what goes into the header of the navigation bar. So in here we can say navigation options, make sure to add that S to the end of it, and then in here we can say header, and that's going to take a function, and inside of that function we've got access to the various state and other functions that come along with this.props.navigation. So props here is equivalent to navigation. Okay, and then this is going to return an object, and inside of here is where we'll actually specify what component should be rendered where. So in this case, we want a component rendered to the left of the actual text, and this is where we're going to use that drawer icon. Okay, and we want to pass over all of the information from the navigation, so we'll just destructure that and pass everything to this function. So with that configured, we can actually go ahead and start setting things up. So inside of here, we know we're going to need the navigate function so that we can actually open up the drawer. And first thing we'll say is if the platform operating system is iOS. Just return null at this point because we don't need that icon on the left side of the text to open up any drawer on iOS because we're using the tabs there. Otherwise, if it's not iOS, we can go ahead and say return, and here we're going to return an icon. And you can make this much more complex or just set it up so it's actually matching the platform. We're just doing the bare minimum here. So here we're just going to say we're going to return an icon, and the icon is going to be MD menu, and that'll give us that hamburger menu we're looking for. We'll set a size, and we'll use 28. We'll also give it a color. I'm just going to use black because it's simple. I'm going to give it a style, and this is just going to allow it to not be bumped up right on the left side of the screen. So it's got a little bit of spacing away from it. And finally, we need to set the on press, and this is kind of where I was talking about. You can make this a little more platform matching because it's not actually going to give much feedback, whereas you could set it up to use a touchable native feedback, which is going to give you kind of that ripple effect on Android. So inside of this on press, we'll pass a function, and then when it is pressed, we want to say drawer open, and then I'll actually go ahead and open the drawer for us. So we save that, let it re-render. You can see we've got this hamburger menu to the left of the text, and when we press it, it actually opens up the menu. Next thing we want to do is actually open this, or put this icon on the root of all of our StackNavigators. So that means put it on the screen 1, we'll put it on screen 4, and then finally we'll put it on screen 8. So now by saving this and getting it to potentially re-render, okay, we can see we've got it on screen 1, screen 4, and then screen 8. And if we go ahead and click to one of the other screens, we'll still get that back arrow as we expect. So that's what goes into actually converting the DrawerNavigation in ExNavigation to the DrawerNavigator in React Navigation. And this goes for the TabNavigator as well, but the TabNavigator and the DrawerNavigator, they both work on both iOS and Android. I just wanted to split it up so it was a little bit more clear between each platform, so we didn't have to comment things out and uncomment them. So the TabNavigator and the DrawerNavigator both work perfectly fine. They both work really well on both iOS and Android.